Hey, game designers, welcome back to another Mr. Chafulio episode of C# Basics. This time we're going to jump into our script again, and we're going to write our own functions or methods, and then we're going to call those functions or methods in void update while the game is playing. I took the liberty of commenting the code here a little bit. If you look at what I've done here is I've just added some slashes for each of these lines and then an explanation of what's going on in that line. So for here, it's if the I'm alive variable is set to false, do the following, right? That explains what's going on here. And then destroy or unload the player object. That's what this line of code does. So writing comments in your code is a good habit to get into, because many times as a programmer, you may not be working by yourself. You might be working on a team with other programmers, and it's important to kind of leave messages for one another and kind of explain what the code that you've got in here and what your intentions were. It's just a really good habit to get into, documenting your code and commenting it as you go. All right, so the other thing that I did was I commented out this line, debug.log health, so that my console is not going to be cluttered with that information, because the function that I'm going to be writing, this new function, is going to just do some math. It's just going to add up some numbers that we'll put into the script, just so we can see that we can write our own functions and get them to do things in the program. All right, so whenever we create a function, we have to always start with the return type. In other words, like, if the function does math and results in a whole number, then the function is an int. Just like we did with our variables where it was a whole number, we called it an int. We do the same things with our function definitions. And I've also written this here, function definitions, after the void update, because this is where I'm going to start writing my own functions down here. So this function is going to be called int, let's say add up. Okay, and we'll add the open close parentheses and the open enter close curly braces. This is what every function has as the basic structure, right? What's the return type? What's the name of the function? I always use a capital letter for that, right? So I can tell my functions apart from my variables. Here's a variable, here's a variable, here's a variable, here's a function. Here's a function, right? They start with a capital letter. All right, and what goes inside these parentheses? Well, inside the parentheses goes the argument for the function or the method. And you can have more than one argument in your function, separated by commas. And most of your functions may not have arguments, but like this one does, right? This says the destroy function has one argument. And what is the argument? Well, it is a game object. So what do you want to destroy, or what should be disappearing? You have to feed that information. And in this case, we fed it the player game object to make it disappear. So in this case, we want to add up two different numbers, and I want the person who's writing the code to be able to decide what those two numbers are. So I'm going to type in, these are going to be ints. So int A, comma, int B. Okay? So there's going to be two integers. We don't know what they're going to be right now, but they're just going to be represented by A and B. And the return is going to be A plus B, semicolon. So this basically tells the program what's supposed to happen with the two numbers that the user puts in here. So that's a function definition. That is a set of instructions, right, of what to do with these two numbers. And I'm going to be adding them up in this case. And the cool thing is that in programming you have these math operators that you could use, right? You've got the plus, you've got the minus, you've got the divide, and you've got the multiply, which is the asterisk. So those four symbols are what you'll use, your operators, to do any math in your program. Okay, so how do we actually use this function? Well, in our void update, this is where the program is actually, doing work. This is where we're going to we call it calling the function. So down here, we're defining the function, we're setting up the instructions, and up here, this is where we call the function. So add up, and then open close parentheses, semicolon, and in here, I can put two values separated by a comma. So let's say I put in 2, 6. All right, well, what's the function going to do? It's going to add 2 plus 6, and it's going to result in an 8, right? But the way we have this written, it's not necessarily going to report to the console. So it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen the way that we want it to. We want it to sort of just happen the one time there. And I don't know, let's see. Let's put it in a debug log. Let's see if that works. Debug.log, and then we put the whole thing in parentheses as the argument for our debug log, so that that will be printed to the console. All right, let's save that. Control S to save, and let's see if it works. We didn't get any error messages so far. Let's play and see if it actually runs. Play. And there it goes. Now you'll notice it's happening over and over and over again, right? It printed it a lot of times. You say to yourself, well, why did that happen? Well, it happened because we're calling it in void update. If we only want it to happen once, we could call it in void start. So let's get it out of void update and let's get it into void start. And let's save that and clear the console over in Unity. And let's try playing the game again and see what we get. Oh, there we go, 8. Okay, it worked. All right, so start, anything that's in start is going to happen once, right at the beginning of the program, and anything inside void update is happening continuously. It's constantly checking that and doing it throughout the game. All right, so that's kind of cool. We got a function that will add up two numbers, and obviously if I change this to a different number, like 12, and this one to, let's say, 8, right? And I save that, and then I come out here and I run this, then it's just going to take the two new numbers and it's going to calculate those, and I get 20. So that's writing a function definition, right? Here's my function definition. It's the return type, the name of the function, the arguments. In this case, the user is going to be defining the first integer and the second integer, and I want to return in this program or this function a plus b, or the first integer plus the second integer. All right, so why don't you try writing one that multiplies two whole numbers and see if you can get that, create a new debug log and see if you can get that to report to the screen. Just as a fun exercise to practice this and see if you can get it to work. Another way that we can do this also is to create some more variables, right? I could create a private int called num1 and make that equal to, let's say, well, you know what? Let's do this. Let's make it equal to random dot range, and this will be a random number from let's say 10 to 40. So we can store a random number between whatever two values as num1. Then I'm going to take this, copy that, and paste it, and we'll make this one num2, and we'll make this one from, well, it's same thing, from 10 to 40. So we got num1 and num2. Now we can come down here and use the variable numbers, or the variable names, I'm sorry, these two new integer names, instead of writing actual numbers in, we don't know what we're going to get, right? Because these are random ranges. We could get anything between 10 and 40 in either of these cases. So the lowest number we could get here would be a 20 after we run this function, and the highest number would be 80. Let's try that. Control S to save. Let's clear our console and play. Oh, random range is not allowed to be called. Uh-oh. I gotta call it in awake or start. I can't call it where I called it. Let's try this again. Alright, let's take these and put them in here. See how that works. See if it lets me do that. Maybe let's take private out of here. Save. And let's see what we get here. Okay, it worked. 51. So who knows what the two numbers were. Not sure. We could actually go like this just to get more information. We could say debug log num1 and debug.log num2. Did not write the .log. Okay, so this will tell me what the first number is, and then this will tell me what the second number is, and then this will use this custom function that we wrote to add the two numbers together. Alright, let's try to run that. Save. Oh, stop. Let's clear this. So we should get three numbers, num1, num2, and then the adding of the two numbers together. And there we go, 15, 18, and 33. Okay, so play around with that. I encourage you to play around with the random range function. That's very useful. We'll definitely use that in some of our games. Anything, to making an enemy walk a random distance or jump a random height, or give our all sorts of different possibilities for why we might use random range in our game. And writing them into our own custom functions. Now we know how to do that. I would go back in here and comment this out, just like I did with the rest of the program. And there you go. I hope you learned something there. Also what I could do here that we haven't done, but I could add into it, would be making it write out like a string in front of this. So I could put num1 equals space, and then close the quote, and then add a plus, because that's called concatenation. So I'm concatenating. I'm going to copy that, put it here. I'm not really adding here. I'm just putting it additionally at the end, and then here I could put num1 plus num2 equals space, and then space plus, and let's see if that works. Control S to save, and we'll come out here, stop our game, which I forgot to do. You always want to make sure you stop your game. Oh, alright, num1 28, num2 23, num1 plus num2 equals 51. Alright, it worked. Great job, everybody. Like I said, try to do a multiplying function, or maybe a subtraction function, or anything. Just write a couple of different ones just to practice. Alright, take it easy. Thanks for watching.